You are now listening to the ANR Design Unholstered Podcast with Alex Costa. Hi guys, I'm your host, Alex Costa, and this is episode 26 of the ANR Design Unholstered Podcast, and today's guest is Kurt. Kurt, you are everything belts at Blue Alpha Gear. Can you introduce yourself, tell us about your role, your company, and everything to do with nylon belts?
Yeah. So, my name is Kurt Sills. I'm one of the two owners of Blue Alpha. My business partner Jesse is the other owner. We started it about six and a half years. No, it was 6.5 years ago. It was 2016. Spring of 2016 is when I can remember the date. That doesn't change, which is like the date. How long it's been, that changes. I can't remember that.
2016.
So spring of 2016, and we started a little sewing shop in his garage, just the two of us, and it kind of got a little crazy. And fast forward a little bit, and we have a bigger than we ever expected to have business that makes concealed carry EDC belts, but also two-piece belts, like war belts, battle belts, double belt rigs, whatever you want to call them. We make those as well. And then we also make some other soft goods for the firearms community, other accessories like tourniquet holders, and we make hats, and we make some soft good rifle accessories like our stock sock, and lanyards and little soft good gizmos and doodads. And there's a lot more coming as well.
That's great. And you do OEM work for anyone that is looking for some, right? Do you offer OEM work?
We do a little bit of it. Yeah. We do a little bit of OEM work.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know that intimate information, but
yeah. When you have a bunch of sewing machines, you get phone calls.
Yes. And in my first introduction to you, actually, I think you guys shared a booth with Dustin over at Coltac at NRA, and I got to meet you and Jesse, and we kind of, any one of a friend is a friend of mine. Any friend of Dustin's is a friend of mine. And, he only keeps good people around and only spends time with good people. So what a wonderful introduction. Oh my God, I left the cursor on the screen. All right, fix that. Sorry. So that wasn't Indianapolis. That was the one before Indianapolis. What was the one before
Dallas?
That? Yeah, Dallas. That was Dallas. Yeah. I think we had talked before. I think I started transferring over to your belts before that. And it's not that the company that I bought belts from before was bad or anything. Yours just were a little bit easier to operate, a little bit more comfortable. And I liked your battle belts the best. I was using a couple different companies' belts, and there was definitely boxes that were not being checked. And I think the combination of your Molly setup and the simplicity of it just absolutely knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
So, and now it's like all I run forever.
We really appreciate that. I'm thrilled when people say that. It means a lot.
And it's my favorite too when I travel internationally and work with soft units, and I'll go there all right, let's see your belt rig so we can see how we can improve on them or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's Blue Alpha belts, and I'm like, yo, yes. And they're like, no, it's because we watched you with this belt. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. That's even better. So I think that's super cool. Everyone likes it. A lot of times when I'm traveling, a lot of guys are like, what do you think about the Ronin? And I'm like, why don't you just buy a Blue Alpha? Because it's made by Blue Alpha. It's not farmed out, which is not a big deal. I mean, I sell things that we farm out, but this is yours.
There's a lot of people that, do OEM work for other people, but generally, one of the benefits of us as a brand is the fact that because we manufacture stuff in-house, we can in general offer a little more value to the customer. We control our own supply chain. We actually have our own in-house supply company that supplies Blue Alpha and other companies with soft good materials for manufacturing. Ooh. So that's one of the big business term coming up here. That's one of the ways we vertically integrated.
Ooh, vertically integrated. Yeah.
Energy. That's one of them.
Infrastructure.
So yeah, all the way from the materials that we use coming direct from material manufacturers, right from the mills who are milling the webbing or the wide fabrics like Cordura and stuff like that, all the way through manufacturing, and then we sell direct to consumer, and then we handle all of our own in-house customer service and warranty work. And if the customer, is buying from Blue Alpha, and if they're buying from our website, they're dealing with us like the whole time, the whole way through. So we can provide a good service to them while also being efficient while we do it, because there's not middlemen involved. We can be competitive, a little more competitive because of that, because we take on a lot of the risk ourselves. We take on a lot of that homework instead of having a lot of other companies involved.
Right. And you don't have to answer this question, but I own a lot of your stuff.
Yeah.
I've recommended a lot of your stuff. My guys all run Blue Alpha, most of them, most of the smart ones. And I have never seen anything that you've ever produced that I didn't, and I sew. I'm not a good sewer, seamstress, but I do sew. I do modify gear. Sometimes I'll get stuff from Dustin and I'll go stitch some things to it that we're working on. Like, do it this way, whatever. I'm good enough. Like, I can reverse it. I just fixed a pillow on my couch the other day. My dog chewed a corner off with the zipper bottomed out. And then my mother, who is a self-proclaimed seamstress, unzipped it out the back. And I'm like, well, that's not going the fuck back on. Sick. So I seam ripped it, and then the foot on my Juki was a little too wide. So it pushed out. So the hem got a little wider, but I kept it straight. Looked fucking great. And it worked. But where the fuck was I going? Oh yeah, quality. So I haven't seen loose threads, separating threads, bad bar tacks. I haven't seen anything bad with any of your products, and I've never had a friend that I've recommended your belts to that I ever had a complaint, which is amazing, right? Like nobody in the last 5 years. I'd say I've been running stuff for at least 4 or 5 years. Never had anyone come back and say, I had a bad experience or a bad product. I don't think anyone's ever received anything bad. I think your quality control is absolutely excellent. And I can only imagine your customer service that I never have to deal with is absolutely excellent. But let's get into the manufacturing here. Are you guys Six Sigma in-house or Six Sigma for the end user? Six Sigma being 6 decimal places before you have quality of percentage. I feel like you have a high.
So we're more informal with our methods. I would say our quality control, for us, we try to just work whenever possible. Well, we hire really quality people. So not that everyone doesn't try to do that. Everyone tries to do that. It's hard. We've somehow been really successful in it. And I can't attribute that to anything specifically that we did other than some of the stuff that we offer our employees. But for us, that's kind of like, that's a foundational thing for quality control, is have as high a quality of employees as possible who care about what they're doing and are competent. And then that right there eliminates a lot of quality issues. And then the rest is just, having good management who kind of controls the flow of things on the floor and make sure that we're solving problems that we see. Right. If we see an issue, we can solve it. And then finally, it's, having eyes and hands on the final product before it goes out the door. And there's a lot of there's usually a few sets of hands on every product before it gets to the shipper, and then the shipper is the last person to touch something and look at it before it goes out. So
right.
That's worked pretty well for us.
Do you have sign-off sheets, like people have to quality check throughout the process, or?
Not as of right now. We're setting up some like more digital workflow type stuff where people are going to be clocked into certain things, certain projects. But
I'm already on Revere. It's okay.
But
is that what it is?
No, it's some custom thing that's being built. I'm not super involved in it because
because Dustin made Revere.
Yeah. Yes. And we talked with Dustin quite a bit about it. But I'm not the person in charge of that. So
Jesse?
Not really even Jesse. So
good management. You got lucky to a location. Your actual physical location has yielded a very formidable workforce, and I've heard from Dustin, some other people, that you have some extremely overqualified ladies that have worked for you over the years. But they enjoy what they do and they like the benefits that you offer.
So
I've heard you have a very stable and fantastic workforce.
Yes, that is absolutely the case. And so we generally try to empower them to solve problems and figure things out. And it makes it so that Jesse and I can focus on other things. Now, I was involved in some of the conversations. Jesse was involved in more of the conversations. But in the end, we're still like, you ladies are going to have to deal with this software or whatever is happening. So I'm not going to tell you what it's going to be. You can choose what you want to deal with and what you think is best, because you're in the trenches. You're in the trenches, and we're not. Jesse and I are trying to be the tip of the spear on stuff, and you kind of gotta like this is very much a thing we're still learning, but you kind of gotta like start to let things go a little bit. You can't hold on too tight; it slips through your fingers.
To a degree,
you have to, we have to be able to.
Johnny and I let go a little too far, and it blew up in our face. So we figured out where the happy medium is.
Yes, that's very true. I still have to show up to work, and Jesse still shows up to work.
Yes,
we both still show up most of the time. So
a day here, a day there, but you have at our size, it can run away real quick. It's scary how that happens.
But I have really good people working with me, and it's the biggest difference the biggest single thing that I can point to is our employees, and making our product good, our business highly functional, and my life better. So it's important to us.
And speaking of all of that, for a company that's been around for as short as you have, I was 2014, January 2014. So as a business, a little older, but as a capability company, you guys are definitely on par. You probably do more in sales than we do, guaranteed, because everyone has a gun, needs a holster, but a belt is like legitimately the quintessential component for success when carrying a gun. I've talked to Dustin, and he's shared with me how amazing you guys have grown, and I think it's the coolest thing ever, because seeing your growth. I mean, you guys just recently moved, right? You expanded again.
Well, so sort of. Well, yes. In
or another location.
This is the longest amount of time where we've gone where we haven't moved, and it's been a year and a half. So
how do you move so much?
Because oh gosh. So we moved 5 times in the first 4 years.
That's fucking outrageous.
It's terrible. We outgrew ourselves.
How do you fucking really settle? How do you get settled in after moving so much? No, I don't actually want to know.
Do you know how difficult and frustrating it is to move sewing machines?
Yes, I have one, and it's probably the most uncomfortable, least carryable thing because of the way the stand is underneath the table.
Yeah, there's no place to put your fingers.
No place to put your fingers. It's sharp, and then your feet are constantly smashing it because of how high they sit off the ground.
Exactly it. And then now go up and down stairs.
Nope, pallet jacks and a fork truck.
Yeah. So our first
blow a window out. Fuck it.
And we in all of 2017 we were in a small 800 square foot shop, and then we moved into an old cotton mill here in Noonan, Georgia. And we moved into one unit, and it had 2 floors, and so it was small, but there was stairs in the middle, and all our sewing happened downstairs, so we had to bring all the sewing machines downstairs. And then when people moved out, we would take their spot because we were growing. So we ended up
buildings are like that. We did that. We got 3 units too. On the 3rd floor.
So we ended up with 3 units, and we had a Pilates studio in between us. So we had to
recording studio.
Yeah. So we had to exit, go past the Pilates studio, and then go back in. Yep. And all 3 of them were 2 stories. So every single one of those 3 units had its own flight of stairs.
Fucking horrible, dude.
Yeah. So then when we finally moved out of there, and we bought our current building, we bought in fall of 2019. We had to dump a ton of money into remodeling it because it was just a warehouse with a leaky roof and no walls in it.
$1 million job.
And we needed walls because we wanted to have a climate controlled area for all of the people working.
Yes.
And so we have an unclimate controlled warehouse and then a climate controlled sewing floor. And so we dumped a bunch of money into that, and then we moved in March 1st of 2020, 15 or so days before the pandemic became officially a pandemic. And
what pandemic?
I can't remember that thing that happened.
Didn't happen here in New Hampshire.
Yeah. Well, it didn't really happen here much either, other than the sales. So
sales went up.
Sales went up. So we went from selling hundreds of some of our belts per month to thousands of some of our belts per month. Some of them had a legitimate 8 to 10x increase in sales from basically January to summertime that year.
Yep. Same here.
Yeah, it was a good time for us. Yeah, it was a good time for us to move into a larger building, but holy crap, what a ride. So we had some extreme growth in 2020 and the first half. No one
wanted to work.
Yeah, right.
How do we do this with us? A graveyard shift.
Yeah.
And lots of OT. Did you have to do that? Like very few people coming in. Most people who were with you were legacy employees, and
we did okay with the retaining employees that we had and getting most of them to come into. So the way our scheduling works for our employees is they make their own hours. So they can choose whenever they want to work 24/6. We're closed on Sunday. We're like the sewing Chick-fil-A. So anyone, if someone wants to work 310s or 312s, they can do that. If they want to come in and work 4 hours a day, 6 days a week, they can do that. And if they want to work day shift, they can work day shift. They can work night shift. There's really no shifts. It's literally we're open 24 hours.
Is there a supervisor there the whole time?
Not the whole time, no.
Oh, you trust your people? I have a lot of guns and ammo.
Yeah. So it's an interesting environment. We end up with a lot of people who they bring their kids to work, and then they come in and work for us, and then they go pick their kids up, and we offer them some flexibility that some of their more professional careers that they maybe are trained in wouldn't allow for, and so they like working for us while they're raising young kids. And then if they want to go off to, yes, we need them because Jesse and I are not professional at all. Like 2 college dropout idiots that started a sewing business based off of watching YouTube.
Everyone starts off. I watched Philster.
Yeah.
how to build a home lab. I get it. And you
Yeah.
have the emphasis that I keep saying on, like, you're very qualified. You have women that could easily on their own make far more money than most humans in America on average. Very successful women that have chosen their families, and you've given them this awesome environment to work in and
that's great.
that's okay. Opportunities that works for them, you know. I mean, we kind of feel the same way up here. You know, I think we start at like 17 an hour. Like, we have to, and this is the Northeast, right? And people are like, oh, down here in the South we pay 12. You're just like, yo, look, y'all ratchet. Like, we have, you know, we do 5% 401k matching. We do 70% paid, you know, gold PPO healthcare. You have to, you know, and you don't have to. I mean, people listening, you don't have to do this if you own a small business. It's in New Hampshire, and federally, I think it's 50 employees to do any of these benefits. But like, why would you, when you can afford these things, like, we could put a lot more money back into all kinds of other things if we didn't do these benefits, but then you wouldn't have those people. You wouldn't be able to invest in those people.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to invest in your business, invest in the people that work for you, the people that make it happen day to day. Not only because it is financially a smart thing to do, but also because, you know, it's kind of, it's what I want to do so that I can, you know, I feel good about our employees and the fact that they are, you know, more happy than the average employee somewhere else. We have a really good retention rate. I can sleep well at night knowing that they're well taken care of and they're respected and they're treated like adults. These are things that I learned as an employee most of my life. I was not the owner of a business. I was just some guy who worked at places. I used to be an aircraft mechanic, and you know, working for a big corporate airline and just feeling and being treated like a number. And you know, you've got your 32 layers of management that all are just trying to meet the metrics for whoever is above them, whoever their manager is. And you know, they start making policies that apply to everyone, even though the problem wasn't everyone. The problem was maybe a couple of people.
Sounds political.
Or they just they just stop treating you like an adult and start treating you like a child. And then a lot of people respond to that by just being like, well, fine, I'll act like a child. And then, you know, then it's just a sucky place to work at that point. So you take those lessons learned and then you're like, I'm not going to do that at my place. I'm going to try and avoid that. We're going to make this a place that people don't dread going into work, like while they're sitting at the stoplight on the way in. So,
yeah, that's 1,000% it. You know, I said this on my last podcast that the podcast I had with Greg Davis. I recorded like 5 podcasts at a time, and then a block, and then I slowly release them. Again, I'll just reiterate it real quick, but buddy of mine's like, yo, be the best boss you can be, because those guys and gals going home, if they're fucking miserable, they're gonna take it out on their family. They're gonna neglect time with their children, neglect time with their pets, their wife. They're just gonna go crack a bottle, smoke something, fucking go just pass the fuck out. Because they have to rinse, repeat every day miserably to just pay bills so that they can exist with their family. It's terrible. It's a terrible thought. So, and I want, you know, I want to create more opportunities for people. Like, I was talking to one of my guys today. Ian runs our shop. And I said, like, look, man, I want to grow. Like, I want to grow for a while, but I don't ever want to have more than 50 employees ever, because there's no way on this good earth, you know, that Johnny and I, as business owners and business partners, need to make X amount of money, you know, because I'm happy. Like, I'm already happy. I have everything I want, you know. Right now, I mean, it's tough. My wife's not working. We just had a kid, and obviously I don't pay myself a ton. So it's like, oh, hey babe, can you get a job soon? She's like, no, kid first right now. And I'm like, okay, like, shit's expensive right now. You know, like, but at the same time, like I want my kid to not fucking suffer either. So we were talking like 50 employees. Like I was talking to some friends that have companies with 250 employees, and they're just like, I don't know fucking anybody. I only know like down to this layer of the onion. And I never want to be that way. I want to be able to walk around my shop and say what up to everybody and ask them how their day is going. And, you know, is there anything that needs improvement? And if something clicks in my head, I'm like, fuck yeah, that's a great idea. And we implement those things. We make those changes. I ask for opinions. When I used to be an engineer at a company called Pitco Fryolator that make fryers, I used to design the equipment, whether it was like the entrance box where all the electrical components went. I'd bring my schematic and everything, and I'd ask one of the line leaders if one of their assemblers had time. They'd allot time for me, and I could watch their top assembler or their worst assembler follow my schematic and assemble what I designed, right? My assembly, whether it's electronic or physical. And I'd time it, and I'd go through and I'd be like, okay, after all that, or if they built the box, like electronics built the entrance box, which is where all the computer assembly is, I'd give it to the line guys that would install it. I'd be like, what do you not like about this? I'd be like, oh, the way you made your covers, like, I hate it. I wish this was flared out a little bit more so we can get it in a little easier, not cut our hands up on the sheet metal. I'd be like, all right, cool. So before I even showed it to my boss, I would schedule time on the line, have the line come back and tell me what they hate about it. And then I'd go make those changes, go back. And I was like the only engineer that knew how to weld. Like I taught myself how to weld while I was there, so I could like bring stuff to them, weld stuff, and be like, how's this? You know, faster. So I have to wait for weld time. And it was great because I got like really quality work done a lot faster instead of letting all the engineers rubber stamp it and have it all sorts of fucked up and then come back out and then find out that manufacturing fucking hates it.
Yeah.
And then have to go and redesign it again. So I'd always bring it to manufacturing. I was always so nice to the guys on the floor. Anyone on the shop manufacturing floor, I was always so kind to because I really wanted their opinion. And I didn't want them to be like, hey, their general verbiage for engineers was fuck those guys, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to change their persona about me so that I could get feedback in real time and make their lives easier. So, I mean, I try to do that with our guys. Like, what's going on? What's the problem? So we actually have a whole system. Every location has to get signed off on a QC sheet. Yes, I checked these holsters. And then when it gets to the end of QC, it gets a final QC, right? Like an actual QC guy. And he finds an issue from one of those areas that's been signed off. There's why is the word eluding me right now? There's
accountability.
Yeah. Dude, my brain's mushed today. We worked today. So yeah, they have accountability. We can go back and like, why'd you sign off on this? And they're like, well, and you're like, you didn't do your job. And they're like, okay. So it's in black and white. They didn't do their job. And it's, you know, we don't have a strike system, but it only takes usually one conversation about one particular incident, and that person never does it again. You know, and it's been great. It's been great. So that's wild that you're allowed to get you have permission. It's wild to me that, you know, you can let your staff kind of just do that. I hate it. I hate how we've had to choke down a little bit more corporately on things lately, just because every time we give leniencies to certain things, those leniencies have been taken advantage of and manipulated through the years, and then we add more. You know, we were very like, hey, as long as you put in your 40 hours, I don't give a fuck when you show up. Now we have set times, set exits. You know, only certain people are key holders. Like, it's been tough. I'm really impressed that you still get to keep that integrity of what you want for your staff. It just sucks. Like you said, everyone gets punished for one bad egg, but the problem is we didn't make changes, and we didn't restrict certain things till it was like 3 or 4 people. We didn't choke down because of one person. What happened was we started getting multiple people also manipulating the system and then having to create these fail safes, and it fucking sucks. Like, Love you guys if you're listening to this, but y'all need to wipe up your pee on the toilet seats and clean up the bathroom when you're done, because you guys act like fucking children. Hate it. Go in there and there's fucking some mess, and you're just like, there's literally scrubbing bubbles on the back of the toilet. Wipe your fucking shit down.
Yeah, I have.
That's men. That's men, though.
Yeah. Well, I know. I mean, yes, but I have cleaned and still do clean toilets. It just happens. Like where you go into a bathroom and you're like, well, looks like today's the day I clean a toilet, and it's just the way it is. Yeah.
Ladies can be messy too. Do you have mostly women work for you?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably 90%. Yeah.
Who's the tall mustache gentleman with the dad bod that's kind of cute? Who's that?
Wow, that is a very accurate description of him. His name is
Hug from behind at SHOT Show, and I don't even.
Yeah.
know.
Oh, yeah. You could like double cup. He's just a big guy. There's a couple of handfuls up front there. His name's Steven, and Steven with a PH. So every time I have anyone write it down, I make sure they spell it with a V just to annoy him. Yes. So Steven he's one of he helps us with marketing and with R&D. R&D is probably his primary thing he helps us with. He's an Army medic. He's in the National Guard right now, and he is one of Jesse and I's like best friends, and was before we hired him. And so he was always hanging around the shop, like doing all of these, like helping us with R&D and like doing all these things. And then we just kind of like we're like, can we just have him around more? And so we just hired him. That was at the beginning of this year, and it's been really helpful to have someone who's competent and knows the firearms industry really well, because that is, I mean, it's an area that there's not a ton of like firearms industry experts that work for us. So pretty much me.
Yeah.
And now that's not the case anymore. So I've got Steven to help with all of that stuff, knowing like what products would work well for which people and how to create them. He's out, in the field doing stuff and testing stuff just naturally anyways through the National Guard, and finding what works, what doesn't work, and coming up with ideas. And it's been really great. So we get to spend a lot of time with him. He shares Jesse and I's general sense of humor and immaturity, and it just makes for a fun work environment.
Good. Well, you need that. And this is not, don't take this the wrong way. You and Jesse do shoot a lot, but you could shoot a lot more.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So it's cool that you have an end user that can kind of get that job done. I'm gonna hold on. I'm looking something up for you, really.
I will say I did just get a black patch at a Sage Dynamics class. So
damn. Well, I mean, I knew you were a shooter. But you hide it mostly from the internet.
Yeah, yes, that's true. I don't like to be on camera shooting. That's fairly true. I feel the judgment of 1,000 eyes on me.
But I mean, if that's the case, man, you're kind of like a little bit of an end user. You might as well like.
Oh, I know. I'm working on it. So part of the problem was because I was the social media guy and the content creator.
Okay.
And that led to it's hard. I just didn't take the time to put myself on camera very often.
I get that.
Logistically, it's more annoying to say get the tripod out and try to stand in front of it and do all that stuff. So now Steven's helping with that, and then we're also working with a media company who's helping us quite a bit. So we're cranking out YouTube videos now.
Good.
And blogs as well. Blog articles like yourself.
I mean, don't talk about that here.
Okay.
Super secret squirrel shit. Yeah, no, I used to do the same thing. I hired a full-time videographer. We got lucky. I don't want to put the company's name here, but hide it from the main character. You guys need to do the Hilo lanyards because there's like only one company on the market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are those rated?
These are actually rated.
Yeah.
Retention lanyards for Hilos. I won't copy this. They're never in stock, and there's always dudes trying to buy them, and it's because they do a lot of mill stuff. But
I mean, I'm certainly interested. Getting something like rated is probably something we need to figure out how to do, but it sure sounds like a pain in the butt.
It's not gonna be as hard as you think, but I do offline after this podcast. I'll give you some shit that I've been working on the Fed side to help out. That might help out if you're not doing it, but it is rated, but it could be the same materials, the same stuff that's not officially rated, and you can unofficially list it, but the construction could be a certain way. Anyway, long story short, we can talk about that stuff after. I do have some resources in Georgia that you probably, hopefully you've heard about. If you haven't, it'll fucking be pretty epic for that kind of shit. We got introduced to it last year, and it's been pretty fruitful, and it's a free service through the state. So anyway, I don't want to give tips to people that don't put in the fucking legwork, because I've given too much free info out to other local businesses in my lifetime and had it blown up in my face, dickheads.
Yeah.
So anyway, super successful, super awesome. Your growth has been absolutely exponential. We have the same web guy.
We do.
Which bums me out because Dustin introduced you to Josh?
Yes, probably.
Yeah, fucker. Yeah, it should have been me. Because I introduced Dustin to Josh, and then Dustin's like, here's all these people that would benefit from you, Josh. I was like, that's my job. I get kickbacks from this, Dustin. I'm like, hey, Josh, I got residuals on that. Okay. Josh, when we first started like growing together, I was helping him out. Josh runs and owns a company called Beyond the Brand Media. Beyond the Brand Media is probably the most amazing company that we've worked with on the website.
We've had such a good experience with them that there's no shopping around happening on our side.
You can't. There's no one on planet fucking Earth that understands firearms, the firearms industry, and has a web staff dedicated to creating fucking sexiness and integration and speed to the firearms industry as Beyond the Brand Media. They do everyone's website. Well, everyone that's cool.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you, me, Coltac, Breakthrough Clean, Big Tex, everyone that's fucking pinnacles of their genre without cross-pollination. That's fucking, I'm happy. I mean, we're always, and the cool thing is that we get to work with Josh, and my business partner, Josh and I were really, really close for a super long, like we still are super close. We've been friends since we started the business, but Johnny has a little bit more free time than I do, and he's been working with Josh on figuring out a bunch of interesting ways to speed the site up, make it more desirable, offer more information, make it more user friendly. So it's like almost like bi-weekly we've just been changing something, modifying something, and it's been working out great. Our bounce rates down, our conversions up, our visibility on Google is fucking through the roof, and could have done it without Josh. So if you need a website built, guys, Beyond the Brand Media, name drop me, not Kurt, and tell him I sent you. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, your website's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's so easy. Good job, Josh and Kurt.
Yeah, good job, Josh. I just was like, it looks great, man.
Yeah, I tested it. I made a belt.
Yeah.
Josh always hates us when we make a change because we reversed our Nidhogg builder on the website. We just reversed.
I just used that a couple weeks ago. I got a fresh Nidhogg. Yes, I did.
Oh fuck! You get mad at me when I don't use a code. So I mean that shit. So
I figured you'd get mad at me if I didn't.
Yeah, we just reversed. We put accessories. The accessories was right below model, which talked about QLS systems, and then RTI is like 2 more down, like where you can select like other mounting solutions. So we're in the process of switching that around, so mounts replaces accessories, because it's like, well, if you don't, you could select, some QLS system setup and then pick a G-code RTI and then not realize you just bought shit
that doesn't match.
You can't use. And we're like, poor Shane. Poor Shane's just like, wow, this is gonna really suck to flip around, Alex. I was like, well, you worked with Johnny on this one, not me, when you first made this change, so not my fucking fault. No, they're good sports about it. But so outside of shooting, like, and you had a family before you started the business, like kids?
Yeah, the year that we like formed the business is when my son was born. So yeah, I have a 6-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter, and yeah, terrifying, and terrifying, amazing. Every adjective you could think of can apply to parenthood.
Yes. I'm a new dad. Get that. Definitely cannot imagine having a son at the inception of my business.
Yeah.
That's how old are you?
Great question. I think 38.
38. Okay. So you're 4 years older than me. All right.
Yep.
I don't know how you do it. Didn't know how you did it then. I see my son, look into his eyes, and never felt that I could love so deeply anyone. And also commit the most atrocious acts of violence for anybody.
Yeah.
Can't imagine doing that with a new business. So kudos to you. That is a fucking feat. You know what? You parents out there, you understand parenthood. It's tough.
Yeah, and it was like I had a day job for the first 3 years of Blue Alpha. Jesse and I had a day job. So
gross.
Yeah,
you're doing self-employed for 6 years. Fuck me.
Oh, I had like 20 employees before I finally left my day job.
Dude, I have 14 employees.
We're stupid. That's what we are.
Yeah, you are fucking stupid. I have 13 employees.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of automation in fucking sewing, and there's not a lot of automation in fucking holster making. So how many employees do you have right now?
I think we're around 50-ish, 50 to 60.
You have 50 to 60 employees with automation, with automated machines.
Yeah.
So, and you're 2 years younger than my company. Yeah, you're fucking killing it, dude. You guys listening?
We get bigger business, bigger overhead, right?
Yeah, bigger business, bigger overhead. You're in the South, motherfucker. So it can't be that much. It can't be more expensive than the North in terms of, you own your own property. I'm renting. That's wild. Yeah. Congrats. That's so cool.
Thank you.
50 employees is like where I want to cap out in my lifetime. And you're like, I have 50 to 60.
No, but you're not wrong. Like that number's like kind of the number. That's where it starts to become challenging to try and have, good relationships with employees and make sure that they feel like they have, access to management and owners and can joke around and goof around with us and all that. I at 100 that would be really tough. So yeah,
And you're not ISO rated or anything like that yet.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Cool. There's a lot of people. That's a lot of fucking people.
Yeah. But also another thing to mention is that they're not all full time. So a lot of them are working 20, 25, 30 hours a week. So that's very important.
If you could mush them all together to one full-time rank, how many people? With 35, 40 people?
Yeah, maybe like 25, 30 full-timers would probably be the equivalent to.
That's still a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay. 50 to 60 though. Yeah, for me, I measure in full-time employees. We don't have. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, 3/4 of our employees aren't full-time. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're 100% 14 full-timers. Yeah. But still, not an easy feat for a 6-year-old company. If anyone listening knows anything about business, that is what's considered exponential growth per year. Exponential growth is a scary place to be because you're not you're in survival mode the whole time. You're generally not learning all the correct things in the time it takes you to get up to speed with production. So you're trying to keep up with production. So you're hiring more people. You're growing at a certain rate. So, hopefully you have good advisement, your support network, your accounting, your legal, everyone is all up to speed and keeping things updating in real time with that much growth. It's really hard. Yeah. It's really hard to stay in compliance with things, as well as be a good boss, as well as, like you said, you didn't really have a marketing dude. You were doing all of it on top of, everything. It's very impressive. And there's not many people, or even team business partners, like, 2 guys, 2 girls, whatever, 2 people, that's still such an incredible burden on top of having a family, on top of everything else. And it's like a lot of times it feels like, you're no offense guys at shop, but it's like I have 14 kids, 15 kids, and it's not that they're not calling them children. They're just, they have certain needs that need to be met that you have to give on top of your own family life, and
you have to clean up their pee just like kids.
And you have to clean up their pee. I don't know how many times we have to yell at people about cleaning up the bathrooms after themselves. I don't like to sit on a toilet seat covered in shit. Why do they? The answer is they don't. They just go to the next cleanest toilet and sit on it. You fucking savages. So it's
growth,
really You were doing something.
Crazy.
You were doing something and achieving something and coping with something that is not usually sustainable. Apple. Out of any company I can think of off the top of my head, Apple, after Steve Jobs' return, not when he first started because he was a piece of shit. There's not too many companies in America that have had that kind of growth that you guys could even fathom, other than Apple, when Steve Jobs returned with his visionary look on life and application. Maybe Google, right? That for people to comprehend small businesses, it's microeconomics, and these are macro companies, but it's not a sustainable thing unless you have a really good support network. And what's considered fast growth for a business is usually like not 300% a year. It's like 25% growth a year. That's like sustainable 20-mile march technique. That's where people can consistently make the necessary changes in real time and see the benefits and do granular scaling and whatnot. No, neither yourself or I have had that opportunity to catch up. I spend most of my time going, oh yeah, code is great, 300% growth, and then now we've figured out some secret sauce on our website, and our day-to-day is steadier and higher per day than our averages during COVID. And it's like, holy fuck. And then everyone I'm hearing is like, oh, we're suffering right now. It's like, well, we're not, and this is fucking great.
I mean, the growth, it's the difference between being reactive and proactive. So we were reactive for many years. We're finally getting a chance to start to be proactive because, we had our early growth, which was crazy fast just based on word of mouth. And the competition, I guess, was a little lazy in the belt game compared to maybe the holster game. And so that left a lot of opportunity. There were some open doors for us, I'd say.
Jealous.
And then, when the pandemic started, it was just a whole new thing of craziness. But we grew fast enough in the beginning that's why we kept our day jobs. It wasn't because we were like, man, I just love this job, like going to work and punching the clock and doing all that. It was because for 2.5, 3 years, Jesse and I couldn't pay ourselves. There wasn't any money left over to pay ourselves because all the money was being reinvested back into the growth of the business. Because you sell belts with cobra buckles on them. Cobra buckles are outrageously expensive.
Yes.
Even from a wholesale perspective, the buckles themselves, wholesale, buying them by the tens of thousands, each buckle still costs more than like most of the belts at Walmart cost. So they're very expensive. And when you sell like 500 belts 1 month, and then a couple months later you're selling 1,000 belts, and you need to forecast how many more buckles you need in order to not run out of them, you don't have any money left over. So we spent a lot of money on all of the growth and in trying to automate, where it's like, okay, these machines are slowing us down. We can choose whether we want to add more single needle manual sewing machines, or we're going to invest in some semi-automated machines that can produce more product per employee and per square foot of shop space. Our choice was to invest in automation because it meant that we could have less employees, pay them more, and produce more and stay competitive with all of our competition in the US, but also imported belts. We want to stay as competitive as possible with some of the imported stuff. So there's some really, really big brands out there that all their stuff's imported. And they have numbers in their name.
I'll say it, not Kurt, 511.
Yeah, and they sell belts that are more expensive than ours at times.
Yeah, I know how much their shit is because I found it on Alibaba. You can get a fucking Riggers belt for $14 OEM with your tag on it on Alibaba, and they're selling that shit for $100. Like, get fucked.
So their profit margins are so good. They just opened up brick and mortar stores in a time where literally no one is doing that. Everyone's closing brick and mortar stores. So that's
stupid. Keep the money.
But all their it's all imported. So we have to try and stay competitive and make things here in the US because that's where we want to make things. That's where our heart is. We'd like to look out and see stuff being made. Every day you get to see it too. Every day is like watching how it's made, where you see the raw goods come in and the finished belts go out, and there's a sense of satisfaction that comes from that. And we wouldn't want it any other way. I don't want to receive shipping containers full of half-assed products from China or wherever. I'm just not interested in that. So that's why we do things the way that we do them, and it's been a wild ride along the way, but I wouldn't change it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you share the same sentiment. Again, I asked Greg Davis this. I said, your single most important facet, like what makes you do this every day? My answer was, I fucking enjoy giving people jobs. I enjoy giving hardworking Americans jobs, benefits that I wish I had at huge companies. I worked at Pico Frylater, in 2011, and I got a 1.25% 401k. We do 5% matching. My healthcare there, I would have a new injury and the healthcare would push back and say it's pre-existing and have me prove it. Now I got dinged so hard back then for healthcare as a younger person, which is supposed to be cheaper, right? And then I look at my premiums now, even before, ANR's contribution, I was like, holy fuck, like I was getting nickel and dimed by this company. And what people don't understand is when you work for these big billion-dollar companies, they get a lottery pool system where the company gets kickbacks for how many people are on healthcare or on 401k. And when they hit a certain minimum quota, they don't have to offer as good a percentage. You have like a legal right to offer a certain percentage in the state of New Hampshire. You have to offer the highest possible. But when you start getting into 60, 70 people that are all involved in 401k, the percentage match actually goes down for the company. So they're able to be like, oh, we've got 1,500 people enrolled. The max that we only legally really have to offer, because it has a ceiling to it based on how many people. It's like, oh, we only have to offer a 1.25% rather than be matching 5%, right?
Yeah.
Like they could totally match 5%, but they're not going to because they hit the quota to actually lower the percent match. And the same goes for healthcare.
Well, and what you said there is like they're making decisions based on what they have to do, not based on what they should do.
Yes.
And so I think that's that's the difference between like a good business to work for is they're deciding things based on like what's the right thing to do here. Because I think if you want to play the long-term game of success in business, doing the right thing is actually one of the best things you can do to be successful. So it's not like you can make life better for the people that work for you and the people around you, and have it bring more success. It's a win-win. Like it's a thing that maybe is somewhat underappreciated by people who are bean counting their business. And Jesse and I have made all kinds of like decisions, financial business decisions in regards to our employees over the years that if, we had a bean counter or an HR department monitoring it, they'd be like, what are you doing? Like that's what a waste. That's a waste of money. And for us, it's like, no, it's not. It's what we think is the right thing to do. And I'm going to feel good when I wake up in the morning and be like, I'm going to go to work and I'm not taking advantage of people just to try and, tweak the numbers a little bit this way or that way. I'm just doing the right thing. And, the rising tide can raise all the boats.
Yes. Yeah. There is a balance too. It's tough when you have a small business and you need a certain person of a certain qualification and you can't pay them what they would be making in like the corporate world.
Right.
Which sucks. Like engineers. Yeah. We usually the state, I don't believe the state average. I looked up the state average for engineers in New Hampshire the other day. And it's like 62K. And I'm like, there's no fucking way that the average is 62,000. Unless because we have BAE, L3, Wilk, all these big companies paying big money engineers, it's offsetting the average. But the general average engineer job in New Hampshire is like 54K. And I know that because I was an engineer for fucking better part of a decade. Yeah. And even with 5 years under my belt as a project engineer with some insane capabilities, I got paid like 60K a year after 5 years with 1.25% raise and no bonuses. You're like, there's no way the state average has jumped 30 fucking K in 5. It's stupid. It's not real. In the South, I feel bad. The South, like my friend went to school in the South because it was cheaper for her to get a grad program, and she worked a year down in the South. And because she's from the North and she came down with a degree, she got paid a fuck ton of money because there's not enough people down there to do certain things. And now she's back up here, and it's wild. It's absolutely fucking wild. But it's tough. It's tough because it's like, hey, look, we're a small company. You're here on ground level. Help us make changes. You're gonna be here in the long run. We will take care of you in the long run. But it's tough getting people to also believe your vision as a brand and believe in the core values of the brand and be part of the culture as well. Our culture and your culture are much different. You're 90% women. We are 100% men. Do we get do we get women applying for jobs at our shop? We do. Most of the factory style work jobs that we get applicants for are prohibited people because we are an FFLSOT. Like, we had a woman apply for a job a couple jobs ago, and she had made a fake bomb and glued it underneath her ex-boyfriend's car. And we couldn't even interview her. So we get a lot of prohibited people. So it's hard work, right? You're advertising a factory style work job, and you get some folks that are gruff.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of felons walk through the door and go, "Hey, are you a prohibited person? You know, blah blah blah. Can you pass a federal background?" And they're like, "No." And you're like, "All right, hey, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day.
Yeah.
Bye."
Yeah.
I haven't, I hate to say this, it's gonna sound really bad, but there's probably, out of many females that have applied for jobs at our shop, most of them have had some type of criminal history that we can't take them onto a factory work job. So I'm stuck with a bunch of fucking dorks.
Yeah, I mean, there's you would find some of the work culture we have pretty hilarious, because it just in how vastly different it is, because like there's someone who runs like the birthday party planning, there's lots of holiday parties, there is like when I go out on the shop floor, I have to go sign all the birthday cards for that month, because there's always like, you know, it's just they're all so sweet to each other. They
must be nice.
Yeah.
No, you know what? This reminds me of The Office, where there's a party planning committee.
Yes, that's yep.
I'm jealous because you ask anyone in my shop to take initiative over something extracurricular for the shop, and they're like, "Why don't you fucking do it?" Like, everyone's birthday, I buy lunch for everyone, for the whole shop. You know. Today, because they're like, "Oh, we have to work fucking Labor Day," I was like, "I'm buying lunch. I'm gonna give them an extra day during Christmas." But like, you know, they're not enthusiastic to do anything outside of their jobs, and it's fine. Right. I have a younger, the average guy that works the shop floor is in their mid-20s, so I get guys in mid-20s.
They're not baking birthday cakes and bringing them into work.
No. Whereas like Ian, my operations manager, his wife is a very good baker. My wife likes to bake, and they're always bringing foods in for the guys, and they're making up for it, you know. And then Ian used to work in a restaurant. I used to work in a restaurant. So we kind of have that vibe where we're like, okay, we like to reward in food, and, you know, it's guys. Yes. But, you know, the average guy in our shop, they're just, you know, they're chasing tail or trying to figure out how to settle down with their girlfriend without being a dickhead. And you know, it's a completely can some of you guys take some fucking initiatives to plan some shit? It'd be nice so we don't have to all the time. Kurt, listen to Kurt. Kurt's got a fucking stellar staff that does it for him. Must be fucking nice, Kurt.
Yeah. So
shit. God, there's so much stuff I want to talk to you about, but I have to do it offline.
Okay.
But we just won't talk about the entity, but we were just talking briefly about government, international government, military, and law enforcement sales, to finding a balance that's healthy for your business, where you're not just 100% consumer sales heavy, or 100% manufactured goods to consumer direct. You want to diversify your portfolio. We offer other retail items. We have a couple product lines that we sell that we designed, but we have an OEM manufacturer, and we get those for better than wholesale pricing because it's our design, and we're getting it made and we're selling it, or other entities where we have a drop ship opportunity, but we also apply for federal contracts. And there's a whole process to that for folks listening. There's this whole process of getting your business green-lighted for federal contracts. And it's really funny. There's a lot of folks out there on social media claiming that they fulfill military contracts and all this shit. They're usually younger people. They don't understand what a fucking contract is. Or I trained this soft unit, or I did that. It's like, no, you didn't. No, you fucking didn't. You don't even have cage code. You can't do that. You don't have the federal green light rubber stamp and representation to do what you're saying you do. So the military can purchase things direct. Generally, units like, let's say, Rangers or DevGru or whatever, they usually have a credit card. They have a $10,000 limit on, and they can buy up to 15 of the same SKU or a $10,000 limit. So there's obviously ways where you can make unique SKUs for each item ordered so that you can fill up to $10,000 rather than 15 of the same thing. Depends on how this unit wants to work with you and how much they trust you and how they want to work with that. But it's not a contract. A true contract is where they say, we want a gun belt for this unit. And then Kurt will go, fuck, well, let's submit ours at this cost for this quantity. This is what we can do for this color. And then and then that entity from the military or government or international military government says, okay, we pick these 3, and then we're gonna we request samples. They'll get a couple samples from Kurt and all these companies, which are usually free. And then you send them out and you give them the quote, and then they, after it actually goes back through the entire award process, and then they name and award you, and then you get an order. And then your federal ID and everything is linked to it, and you get a wire transfer of cash, and then produce it in a certain time frame. You have a certain amount of time, and the time can be negotiated. It can be a dead set time. Then you fulfill that, and all that's public info. And that's the other thing. You get a lot of people on social media that will, oh yeah, we filled this contract and that. No, that's public info. Wherever any government's money goes, especially with the procurement of goods, is public info. So you can find it. You can search that company's cage code or EIN, and you can, or not EIN, but you can search that company's cage code and actually see where they've done business with what entity. And it's all public because that's how you, that's how you kind of track it. As a business that does Fed biz, we have our search thing tailored so that we also see things that we qualified for that closed out as bids. So we can see, oh, this holster sold for this much to this entity. Okay, that's where we kind of need to be. We're very compliant. We have all the proof of berry compliance. There's a lot of people out there that don't really truly understand what berry compliance is. Berry compliance is that every facet of your product and good that you manufacture has U.S. origin. So if the screws are cut in the United States, they're cut in the United States, and they go to your holster, it's good. And that's super important because there's a lot of federal business that requires berry compliance. Now you could file for variances. So if you have a component of your product that you literally can't get in America, it's only able to source overseas, you can apply for a variance, and then they can sign off on that. Like the government, the entity that's buying, say, it's okay that there's a variance. This feature we want, and we know it's from a foreign manufacturing entity, but we want this part of this product. It's okay, and then it gets signed off on, and then it's okay. Then it's totally okay.
Cobra buckles are a good example of that. Which they're exempt now. There's no variance needed. They're like permanently exempt, but they like Austria Alpin has a pretty good lock on that patent.
Yeah,
and they're made in Austria. They're not cheap imported goods. They're super expensive imported goods, but they are technically not made in the USA, so therefore they needed to be exempt.
And they are exempt because of common use as well.
Yep.
So similar to like guns and common use and all that shit. For berry compliance, if this component, this Cobra buckle from Austria Alpine, if it can be sourced in any country locally from a distributor, generally that's how they can get an exempt. Is that if you're in fucking Slovenia and you're trying to get one of those buckles, you can source it locally. If you're in Canada and you need it's almost like a common use thing. And then it's like, okay, you can get this pretty much anywhere in the world as well as the United States. Then it gets an exemption, and they filed for that. But it's cool. So there's opportunities like that. So you get a lot of people that claim berry compliance that don't have variances, that you're like, that's a felony. Like, you can't claim berry compliance. You can't. People don't understand it. You can't claim made in the USA and stick it on your product when an element of it is not made in the United States. You need to have that exemption, that variance, whatever. You know, there's assembled, like if you look at Surefire, you know, you get all these dudes that are like, fuck this company, this shit's made in China. Like Hollow-Sun, for example, you get a lot of people that are like, yo, that shit's made in China, it's crap. Well, Hollow-Sun's come out of like an ISO 9000 plus facility. Like the amount of companies in the United States in that type of manufacturing don't have those certifications. And then you get people that are like, but my you know, like let's say it's a light, like, oh, that light's made in China. Well, most of the components, like the electrical components of a Surefire, are made in China. The batteries are made overseas. The housings might be machined and anode in America, it's assembled in America, but usually electronics are sourced from Asia. You know, and they say that on the packaging. Surefire literally says some of our components are manufactured of this light are manufactured in the United States. There's other components that we cannot source locally. We have to source them from overseas. This is not 100% US manufactured good, but it is assembled in the United States. So that's something you guys all need to fucking consider, because there's very few LED manufacturers in the United States.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to fucking burst everyone's bubble on that, but it's the truth. Stop being so, you know, don't buy an iPhone. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of nuance to that issue, that's for sure.
Anyway.
Because even like nylon, like the nylon that goes into belt material, that's not made in the USA. Like it's like illegal to make it here or something because of emissions. So the raw nylon has to be made somewhere else. And then it comes here and gets woven and into webbing. So there's a lot of complexity to that stuff.
Yeah, we're talking about the spun fibers of nylon.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, glass. You look at companies, oh, this is an American company for a scope or something. It's like, two places in the world that can manufacture glass, and that's Germany and Japan and China.
I think Austria, but
yeah. And it's because even though these are green countries, a lot of them identify as very green. Their emissions laws for production of glass are more lax, you know.
Because that's because that's where like glass was invented, optical glass was invented in Germany, so that's their thing.
Yep, and it's like they're not going to lose their bread and butter. It's pretty wild. The Vortex glass that won the Army contract, scope thing, whatever the monstrosity abomination thing that the size of the entire spear system that I saw. But Vortex gets their glass from Japan historically, and
therefore Nikon probably.
Right, and I knew the requirement on this SIG spear was 100% US manufactured. Now, I believe someone said that scope was 100% US. I'm like, well, the glass is going to be shit. if it's a US lens, it's going to be terrible because they can't do it. But I think there was a percentage of variances allowed in the entire project from kind of the way it's written by the US Army. So I know that there's applications for certain variances because it has to all be under a certain weight, cost, whatever. And but I someone told me that glass was 100% US made, and I was like, cringe. Cringe. Sorry guys, we don't do some things well. Most things we don't do well anymore. God, sorry I've been rambling about politics of manufacturing. But
it's something we have to deal with.
Yes, and we're very proud to be US manufacturing. Like, I wish more people started their own companies. I wish more people started manufacturing companies. I wish there was more US goods. We don't. Amazon ruined it for everybody. The on-demand next day stuff.
Yeah, there used to be. I think there used to be like 70 or 80 mills in Georgia, like fabric mills or some sort of soft good mills. Like they were making denim everything here in Georgia. They were making like hosiery, all that stuff. Like you go to any small town in Georgia, and then like there was a mill there that made stuff, which is what our mill that we started in was, a cotton mill, and they started by making stuff there. And then the nearby town of Grantville is where like the World War I uniforms were made. And there's this huge history of all of that. And then in like the 80s and 90s, it just all got shipped overseas, and all the equipment went with them. And it is making a comeback now, but it's been fascinating to see, talk to some of the older people who are like, oh yeah, back in the day it was like this. And now in Georgia there's like 3 sewing machine mechanics left, like like the whole state. And they're all like 75. So if you guys want to have a great career, learn how to be a sewing machine mechanic, and move to Georgia or anywhere else, honestly, because there are no young sewing machine mechanics. And that would be a great job.
So for people listening, a lot of people are like, well, why did all this go away out of America? Well, the unfortunate part of mill America was for-profit businesses not giving a fuck about the environment. And the greatest downfall to American manufacturing was environmental damage. Superfund sites, dye houses, paper mills, fly ash, arsenic, lead, mercury, all these things. They look at a water source as, oh, this will make it disappear. And, obviously you got countries like China that don't give a fuck about their people. But that was one of the things that really curbed American manufacturing, was the EPA. Now, which is great, because I saw photos of where our shop is in Manchester, New Hampshire. We used to be on the mills right off of the Merrimack. The Merrimack, or the Manchester Mill Museum, actually has photos of Merrimack so thick with sludge that the water's no longer running. And there were sections of it that were solid from all the dyes and paper mill and everything, that deer are like crossing it. Yeah. Like they're able to stand on sandbars of toxic waste. And, guys, that was America. We were using hydroelectric power, hydroelectric mills, and it was like, oh, let's just dump it in there, whatever, and that's,
wasn't it like the Chicago River or the Ohio River that like started on fire? Like part of the river just like lit on fire. Was able to just burn.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could just say that us being more conscious of our environment is what might have killed a lot of companies, because we farm them out to other countries where they don't give a fuck. But now we're seeing these giant floating islands of plastic.
Yeah. Same problem. We just outsourced it.
Yeah, we solved the problem locally, but it didn't solve the problem globally. And that's a big bummer, because that's basically like, oh, well, we can just get it elsewhere and you're still destroying whatever. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that whole spiel, because there's a lot of people like, oh, we should be doing this. Like, I get it. But, with the capabilities of getting, spun nylon overseas, but have it come in country, still be considered made in the United States, whatever. I'm sure the polymers that go into the blending of Kydex are not made in America, but the actual finished sheet plastic is made in the United States. It falls under Berry compliance. We're still U.S. manufacturing. We are making goods in America that our people desire elsewhere. And we're still following that original historical culture. I just wish more people did it.
Yeah.
We're a service-based country.
There's a lot of opportunity, because there's a little bit of a boomerang effect happening, where even with sewing, where it's not a dying industry in Georgia. I would argue that it's a growing industry in Georgia. It's coming back, and likely other places, whatever it is, if it's been outsourced, there's a chance that it might be coming back a little bit, because overseas there becomes complexities there that, just maybe with shipping and logistics and fuel costs, and the wages of the people overseas go up as time goes on, and then it just starts to not make as much sense anymore. And then maybe you ship it back, or someone starts a new business making stuff domestically, and they're able to do really well because the competition is importing things, but it's not as lucrative as it once was. So there's opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity for people who make things to build a successful business.
Yep, you're just going to be punching uphill for a while. But if you can streamline manufacturing capabilities and get it to a point where you're comfortable, you're able to sustain overhead, people's livelihoods, careers, it's definitely more humble. Like, manufacturing in the United States is definitely a lot more humble than it once was, where you are not making tons of money, not buying multiple homes or having, even down to the banking. Like, Bank of America used to have, like, the boardrooms used to be gilt and marble and whatever, right? Yeah, like there was so much wealth back in the day here in America, so yeah, it's going to be a tougher, smaller margins, tighter margins. You're not going to see this exponential growth success without cost, but you can definitely have a life that you're proud of, and be able to support your family and do it.
And I think someone who's looking to start a business probably needs to think about like what their goals actually are. Because if their number one goal is to make a lot of money, they probably have some things backwards. Money, and I try to. This is something I've had a pretty good understanding of it, but as time has gone on, I've keyed into it a little bit more. But money is just a means to an end. It's not the end. And if money is the only thing that drives you in life, there's a lot of emptiness that could come from that. And you may have a hard time successfully running a business, or at least successfully running a business without leaving a wake of destruction in your path, if that makes sense. Right. So there's plenty of people who money is the only thing that matters to them, and they're highly, highly successful because of it. But chances are, I don't know that they've really found maybe what they really should be looking for in life. So money is a means to an end. I found a lot of contentment just in, like you said, providing jobs to people, being able to be creative and create things, having some independence in my life.
You got a little flexibility.
Yeah, and also, and in general, being able to choose who I spend my time with. So, because we have control over who works at Blue Alpha, we can choose to be around people that we want to be around. And that's not always the case at some of the other big corporate jobs. You end up being stuck with people that you maybe wouldn't choose to be with. And all of those things kind of combine to create, for me, a pretty good quality of life that I'm very content with. And I'm thrilled to be where I'm at right now. Right. But that perspective is important for someone who's trying to figure out what success is. Because, like, if you ask someone, like, what is the definition of success? It's kind of a fun question to ask people, because it could vary wildly, and it might give you some real insight into what drives somebody, and maybe is like a really healthy thing, or maybe it's kind of not a healthy place. Right. That, in my perspective, at least. So, hanging out with my family. I go mushroom hunting with my kids, and like, I found myself, like, even with the success that we have, I just kind of want to just like hang out in the woods and hang out with my family, and very, like, I don't know, things that like I don't like, I'm not looking to buy like I need, I want supercars and yachts, and I want to go to, fancy nightclubs and the Mediterranean or whatever it is, like, super, super crazy wealthy people. I don't think about that stuff. Like, it's like, if I could do anything I wanted, I might go build a campfire and like make some coffee and then just like hang out and look at trees. Like, so to me, that's kind of what success is for me, is like family time and being able to have the freedom to be out in nature. And I like to cook, and just some of the more like basic human interests and traits that they've been around for thousands of years. Those are still the things that I think should appeal to someone who has a balance in their life.
That's all great things. Same thing in our family. My wife bought a house. We'll never have anyone behind us. Mm-hmm. We got a big enough plot of land. I can go out in the woods and disappear. I too like mushroom hunting. Yeah. There's a stump in the woods behind my house, far back. It's a very old tree that died, and I ID'd like 16 species of mushroom on that one stump. I like just disappearing out in the woods. That's like what people need to do, is just get the fuck out in nature. I started hunting, and I think hunting was like the biggest fucking change in my life. Like a couple things that the flexibility of my business has given me is, and some friends that I've met through the industry have taken me and got me in, like one of my best friends, Zach Hine, who used to be at CZ, took me on my first hunt ever. Took me on my first big game hunt. I didn't shoot anything, but I got to be at 10,000 feet in Idaho with him.
You had the mindset the whole time.
I experienced the hardest days I've ever had, and the most rewarding days I've ever had, even without ever shooting. Whatever. And I learned a lot. My life's changed profoundly since then. I have a bird dog that I chased all last year for her. Before she was even a year old, I shot 60 birds over her. I took it very seriously. I have a son now. I'm looking forward to seasoning that dog and then getting him involved and getting him out in the outdoors. And, we own land, but, thousands of acres. And my kid's just gonna be a little woodland warrior, and I'm so like, that's all I care about. And there's a couple of things I enjoy about my business. Like, I never thought I'd have to just jump on a plane and go internationally to go meet with a military unit. Like, if you asked me X amount of years ago, it's like, oh yeah, you'd be working with these 10 units, and you're like, wait, those people actually give a fuck what I have to say? Or I do something or have a capability or, whatever, and they want to utilize that capability or that R&D capability. And that's been so fucking cool. Yeah. And that's one of those things. It's like, on the military side, we make fractions of the dollar we make on the standard consumer side, but we do it because we want to be helpful to the greater good, what we perceive as a greater good, right? You historically think like tier 1 units, they are the good guys, they're smiting evil, and being able to help them with their capabilities and make them, with your own equipment, help them be more effective through their own vision and help design that vision, has been so fucking cool. I didn't, and that's the kind of caveat, is like, hey wife, we're going to this country, do you want, are you good? Like, yeah, okay, I could tag along. My wife's great at playing as if she works for us. Like, she hops in and starts helping out, or we're at a show somewhere, she's like, how can I help? Oh, she'll, if there's a coffee bar, she'll help start serving coffee, or there's a product that she's familiar with that might not be ours but someone else's, she'll start answering questions, to like passerbys, even friends booths. Like, she's worked an NRA booth before for someone else, and like, give me the quick lowdown so I can help customers. Well, Alex is at meetings, let me help you. I'm hanging out here anyway. So it's been cool because I've got to travel a lot more with my wife than I ever thought I would be able to. We've got to go to different countries and experience different people, and feel like life for us, like, same thing. your quintessential experience that you enjoy is building a campfire, having a nice cup of coffee. Like I can picture, I can shut my eyes and smell that environment, you know? And the one thing I can really say that this business has really showed me is being able to just kind of drop things and do things on a whim and experience things. Like the experiences that I've had in this short 8 years or 7.5 years going on 8, I'm like, I could not fathom this at all as a young person not owning this company. I would never fathom that I had I'd be experiencing these opportunities as a slightly older person.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of shit, man, that like really, really makes it worth it. It's like, okay, well, we have to sell this good for just enough to make the bills get paid, but you know, we're helping out this country. Been doing a lot of Ukrainian RFQs lately through a couple of our distributors internationally. And it's like, hey, we need this by this date, or hey, can you do this at this price for this? And it's like, well, much politics aside, you know, the politics of Ukraine are questionable. Russia needs to be stopped.
Yeah.
You know, so it's one of those things that's like, I fucking don't necessarily agree with the politics of everything, but I know that deep down in my heart, Russia can't take over this country. Right. So I'm like, right, fuck it. We'll do it for this price. I don't care. I don't care who's making the money. The whole point, and that's I'm seeing that as a collective with all these international distribution companies that we work with, is how fast and how affordable. We're not looking to make a lot of money. We're looking to win the bids so that we can get the goods in front of them faster so that we can help win this war. And it's kind of been kind of interesting, even though it's like it's Cold War 2.0 and everyone's kind of swallowing profit to facilitate capabilities for the Ukrainians. It's fucking interesting, to say the least. But yeah, anyway, sorry for my rant.
Okay.
I just enjoy experiences. I don't material things. I do have a couple things
material
I'm interested in.
Material things are valuable if they can enhance experiences. That's where their value is.
Right. So I recently got into watches. I bought myself one really nice watch. I had a friend that I helped coach with his business who bought me a Rolex Explorer 2. Just like unbelievable gift. But it's the watch that's literally going to live on my wrist for the rest of my life. I'll get it serviced. It's the watch that I expect my son to grow up seeing on my wrist, that he goes, I watched my father wear that same watch his whole life. That's the watch I want to wear. That watch has seen things and done things. It's got a story to tell. That, like, yes, it's an expensive watch, you know, but it's something that I value as like part of my daily life.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm an engineer. I'm a nerd. I like metal on metal. It's really cool.
That's how I feel about my cast iron pans.
Dude, stop. Ooh, daddy cook.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're religious with your greasing, oiling, maintenance, flavor profile of your fucking iron. Yeah? Tell me about iron.
I enjoy.
I don't know about cast iron.
Cast iron's fun. The cool part about it is you don't need to know a ton. It's just they're easy. But I like them just because you can cook outside with them. That's what started me getting into cooking, was just cooking outside. And next thing you know, I'm trying to find things in the woods that I could cook outside, and just real nerd. I'm just a huge nerd.
You hunt?
Not in any successful manner so far. Had some attempted hog hunts, some attempted coyote hunts. I plan to start deer hunting soon. I never deer hunted growing up. I never deer hunted as an adult, even after I got into guns, because I didn't really have a place to hunt and I didn't have anyone to teach me. And I kind of solved both of those things now. I have a place to hunt and I have someone who'd be willing to kind of help me with it. So I'm looking forward to getting into that.
That's exactly where I Cape Cod kid, mostly fishing on boats on the ocean.
I grew up fishing in Michigan. That was my main thing, was fishing.
Michigan's got such good bird hunting. Same deal. I did have a neighbor who hunted, but he did not hunt as much as he acted like he hunted. Yeah, he had the deer. He had the deer in the backyard and he'd shoot with a bow. Not shoot with a bow. I don't recall too many opportunities I saw him dragging a deer home. Right.
Yeah.
And it was like, the perception of it. And I love him. He's a great dude. He was my first boss. But he taught me how to shoot bow. I used to go shooting with him, shot in Boy Scouts, fished in Boy Scouts. But you're right. It's kind of like that leap. There's a mentorship is super important, especially with those kind of things. I was lucky that my buddy Zach wanted to mentor me and my first hunt ever was actually in New Hampshire. He, through CZUSA, sponsored a hunt through a company called Project Upland that gets urban folk, urban kids, just city folk out into the woods, breaking down those walls and
seeing trees that weren't planted by a parks department.
Exactly. But getting them hunting and exploring the outdoors through hunting. And it's a really cool program. And they basically took me on a grouse and woodcock hunt in New Hampshire over, these dogs. And then, AJ, who owns Project Upland, he had another local hunter that he had befriended not too long before. And Joe ended up kind of being ultimately my mentor. And I've hunted with Joe every season since. We hunt with his dog. We hunt over my dog. My dog's now seasoned. We'll be hunting over my dog more this year. But Joe and Zach got me into it. Then I got to, Joe's a Marine. We hit it off. We're both fucking dickheads. And we're both fucking, if you could record the conversations we have in the truck, it could be a fucking podcast. And I got lucky. And I got someone that mentored me on my first hunt that wanted to continually take me out and spend time with me. And I think that's super special and it's hard to find. And I wish there was more mentors out there. I wish there was more mentors that, didn't kind of half-assedly do things, but actually knew the processes and kind of explained it to me more clearly at the time. I didn't realize there's a buddy hunt program. My buddy Pat, he's a Canadian, he's a U.S. citizen now, but he, he keeps forgetting to do his hunter safety. So I'm going to be his mentor for this year for hunting. He's filing in New Hampshire, you can get your first year of hunting without a hunting license. You can apply for my first year, I'm a noob. And this person's it's basically an affidavit saying that I will only hunt with this person. And here's my certificate for 1 free year of hunting with a mentor without getting a hunting license. And so he's applying for that, and I'm going to take him out and teach him some stuff. But yeah, I wish there was more mentors. They're hard to find. You're trying to get into hunting. I'm sure there's some local,
if you didn't have an uncle or a dad that was really into it, that's kind of a big barrier to figure it out if you didn't have that. And I didn't, and it wasn't it wasn't a thing that I felt like I really wanted to do growing up. I liked fishing with my dad. But he just wasn't into hunting. And honestly, I probably just wasn't really either. But now that I have land, Jess and I own a good bit of land now. And you can't help, once you own land, at least once I started owning land, I couldn't help but just want to fully understand every square inch of that land, what's happening there, and how to best manage it and use it. So it's in me now, where it's yes, I'm very interested now. I guess I've taken ownership over. Yeah, that's right. So
I eat squirrels.
Nothing wrong with that.
They're so good. Squirrels are one of my favorite things to eat.
Yeah, I have not had the opportunity yet, but I would eat squirrel.
Kevin fucking Murphy, world's greatest small game hunter. So blessed to meet him on a hunt. He taught me how to hunt squirrels in Kentucky, West Kentucky.
That was probably really fun.
Out there in Mayfield, fucking everyone is racist out there.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. It's funny because I have one of my best friends growing up lives out actually like 20 minutes from Kevin. He's a gay Puerto Rican. He said it's very tough being a gay Puerto Rican in Western Kentucky. But love you, Jacob. Anyway, it's dude, Kevin Murphy taught me how to fucking skin and clean a squirrel in under a minute, and I can fucking do it, and it's wild. I'm literally stepping on this thing in my driveway in muck boots and just peeling its body, peeling its skin off, and like this family's walking by, and I'm just like literally in floral workout short shorts and like fucking muck boots, and I'm like, squirrel season opened up September 15th, bitch. Stripping these things down, and my fucking these neighbors just walking by just like, what the fuck, you know. I've shot a lot of things on my property. I can bait on my property. I have 400-pound black bears. I have a moose that rolls through.
Cool.
I've got a female bobcat that has had a new cub every year, a couple big males, coyotes, turkeys, deer. Get a lot on my property, and that's my property's like 3/4 acre by like 8 acre.
Yeah.
And I kill everything on it. I did call 67 chipmunks last year.
Yeah.
I only shot 2 this year. So I did a good job. Yeah.
I'm now considering them pets. I have a couple of pet great horned owls in my backyard.
Those are great pets.
We hang out. I call them in, they show up. We look at each other. It's a good old time.
See, I have barred owls, not great horns.
Barred owls are awesome.
And when I shot all those chipmunks, I would pile them up in front of my trail cams, mountains of rodents. And the barred owls will swoop down in the middle of the night and scoop them all up. When I shoot birds during bird season, pile them up in front of my trail cam, and I watch the bobcats feed on the bird carcasses. I didn't know that in New Hampshire we have flying squirrels.
We have those too, and I didn't realize that until like a year and a half ago.
Do you know how I learned that we have them in New Hampshire?
How did you learn?
I had a trail cam that faced out on my marsh, and I don't know where these fuckers are jumping from because it's an outward facing on them. There's not too many limbs or trees facing this way, but this must have been his roost was in the tree that my trail cam was, because when I pull my footage and I have IR footage, I'd see this little tissue flying in on my IR, and his nuts would tag my fucking camera, and I'd see his little frankenbeans on the fucking thermal, not thermal, but on the infrared trail cam, and I'd see 2 little glowing eyes, which looked like a sheet of tissue flying in, and then I'd see his little ball sack, and I'd be like, wow, we have flying squirrels here. I'd Google it, and they very nocturnal, small window.
Yep. So I was outside doing what I do as an extreme outdoor nerd, like shining a flashlight up into trees, looking at the leaves in the trees, because I'm a tree nerd. And I see this like ghostly thing fly through, and I'm like, that was crazy looking. Was that like a bat or something? And then I kept seeing more of it, and then I kind of figured it out. And I'm like, oh, these are flying squirrels. And I was able to kind of like track them with a flashlight and watch them fly from one tree to the next. And I go inside and I look it up, and I'm like, we have flying squirrels here. There's flying squirrels all across the eastern US, and no one told me.
Nope.
I'm in my mid to late 30s, and I just found out about this now. I feel like I'm kind of angry that no one told me this.
And you're in Georgia, and I'm in the Northeast, where it's cold as fuck, and these things still exist. Yes. Wild. Dude, I invest in thermal, okay? Even if it's a handheld thermal. Dude,
we have a RH25 that we've been having a lot of fun with.
Cool, perfect. So, that was one of the things is I'd watch in my backyard, and I saw a few of them, after I confirmed it with the thermal. But we have a lot of porcupines in my yard. I shot a bunch this year. I don't like shooting porcupines. They're the most pathetic animal to ever fucking shoot. But I have a bird dog, and we work the property, and the population of porcupines at the beginning of this year was fucking absurd. I shot 5 porcupine in 5 consecutive nights within 5 feet of each other.
Jeez.
They literally kept piling up in the same fucking line in my yard. And the problem was they were actually coming up to my dog enclosure, and they're eating the wood of my fence. And then my dogs go out and get all freaked out. I had one in the dog enclosure. My dog Ryu, 2 of her whelp litter mates got fucking whacked really bad, like 400 plus quills per mouth. You know, like that's pain. There's nothing you can do for the dog other than pull them the fuck out. And so I shot 5 nights in a row, and it was like the same time every night. It was like fucking 11:45 p.m. I'd walk out and hear one, and man, they're sad when you whack them with 300 blackout in the chest and it hollow thud, and they just kind of slump with their face down, and they're so pathetic. It's so sad. I felt bad obviously shooting these things, but we were getting so many and they were coming way too close. And then we started getting them super active like when it was light out, and that's when I was like, I don't care if y'all are in rut fucking each other. No. And it's sad. I hate shooting porcupines, but there's so many of them.
That's like armadillos around here. Like they're kind of a newcomer, like kind of invasive. They aren't historically something that was in Georgia. But they're everywhere now. And if you're hanging out in the woods like at night and it sounds like there's a bear coming through the woods, like it's like the loudest rustling ever, it's just an armadillo, because they're so dumb and deaf that they just make the biggest racket when they go through the woods because they don't care. They have armor, right? Like they don't care.
And they're low to the ground, so they just push all the leaves out of the way.
And they can't, like last night there was one on the road, and I drove up to it and had to slowly drive around this thing. It was completely oblivious to me with my brights on. It just kept walking at the exact same speed, and they're just like little walking footballs that all need to be punted.
Yes. Yeah, I saw them in Kentucky. They're up there in West Kentucky, and you see these little trails through the leaves, and he's like, armadillo. You know, just like, they're like, yeah, shoot them if you find them. They have to carry diseases, and they're just like, man, this is sad. They're cute. Like, fuck.
They're so incredibly dumb though. Like they're blind and like deaf, and you can literally like run up and kick them sometimes because they're just oblivious to their surroundings.
We don't kick armadillos. Everyone listening to this podcast, we're not actually punting.
Saying
them.
Theoretically,
PETA, don't shut down our podcast. No, so well, I really hope you get in some bigger animals, start hunting. Dude, squirrel and like fucking small game is where it's at. It's so easy, low barrier to entry. You can learn a lot. You can even shoot a chipmunk and teach a kid how to skin it. Like, just don't windmill a chipmunk from their tail. Their tail comes off real easily, and the little bone stays, like the little bony tail stays. It's like a little sleeve of flesh.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, because one time I was like to flick one, and
it just looks like a lizard tail.
And I went, ooh, and I heard the zip sound, and I'm still holding the fuzz, and it's like a little straw, and I'm like, who the fuck did? Oh shit! Sorry, guy, you're dead. Poor chipmunks.
Yeah.
I just had so many of them, and I have again a bird dog, and she's rodent driven, and I'm trying to break that, and not having 1,000,001 rodent smells around the dog enclosure always helpful. So it's fun when the red squirrel gets stuck in the enclosure and they fucking chase that motherfucker. But anyway, we talked about a lot. Doing this for quite a while. I love you. I feel like I just talked to you about all kinds of stuff forever.
Yeah, that was a good chat. It's a good chance to just hang out.
We haven't done this in a very long time.
No, we haven't. Nope.
Like a really long time. So, well, let's chalk this up to a part 1.
Awesome.
Because we were very clinical in the beginning. We were talking about business growth, opportunities. Then we kind of got into personal, because the whole thing about my podcast too is I like to get away from the business aspect. Everyone already kind of has a pretty good vision of what we're doing. So like, what do we like to do outside of that? So I'm glad we started to dig into that. We definitely need to do that more next time.
Yeah. I can tell you the details of my nerdery in part 2.
I started lockpicking, bud. Like, I
almost started lockpicking. It is on my to-do list.
I started lockpicking. I got like an Apex Edge knife sharpener, so I started re-sharpening everything, trying to get mirror edges on things. I mean, I'm like such a fucking dork.
Yeah.
It's sad.
My nerder, like, that shit brings me so much joy though. Just like learning new things and skills.
I'm like head spacing for the first time on guns right now.
There you go.
And it's like I'm rebuilding one of my bolt guns, and I've usually had like experienced people do it for me.
Yeah.
So I'm like doing it, and a lot of people listening will be like, "Oh, it's easy." It's easy when the company actually cuts you the right shit. So like I bought a barrel from a company called Shillin, and they must have sent me someone else's barrel because. And I ordered it before COVID, and I got it halfway through COVID. Like, it took 2 years to get it. When I got it, I already switched to a different caliber because it took so long to get this one. And the caliber that I wanted to switch to, 6K Tiger, was unavailable, like unobtainium during COVID. So I backburnered this barrel and this chambering. I never opened the barrel. Opened the packaging. So the other day I was like, oh, I'm going to rebarrel my gun. I got all the fucking tools. Yay. Pull it out. Not threaded. It was a finished bull barrel, but it wasn't threaded. So I sent